Happy New Year, buddy. Happy New Year.
Thank
Let's
you.
let's hit the Fed, right? I mean, we're going to get the minutes dropping tomorrow, I think it is.
Yeah.
And what are you keeping an eye on during the minutes here? I know it's exciting reading, and you're gonna break it out and like with the New York
It's like
Times, right?
watching paint dry or mowing the lawn. I think proper for me, I'm going to see if there's any indication of what their thoughts are on labor markets and unemployment. If they bring that up, then I think that's something for us and for traders, but especially longer term investors to hang their hats on. And by that, I mean, everybody's now talking, seems like everybody's talking about a potential recession coming. And of
Mhm.
course, the Fed wants to engineer a soft landing, not necessarily a recession. The recession may be inevitable, maybe not. It's a tough call. I think if they
Right.
start talking about what they want to see happen in the labor markets, they want to see some weakening in the labor markets, then that means we have something to actually look at, some hard numbers. Unemployment's about, I think, 3.77 right now. Going up 1 percentage point means about 1.5 million jobs will be lost. That starts to indicate there's going to be pain throughout the economy, and if they get it much higher than the 5% range, it's going to be pretty ugly out there. So I'm looking to see how serious they are. If they're going to be hawkish, then they're going to deliver a message that relates to what they expect to see in the labor market. That's what I'm going to key in on this minutes.
Well, interestingly enough, you're going to be keying in on labor markets, and Friday we're going to see the jobs report for
Yeah.
December. So, boy, they're going to come one right after the other and give traders a lot of things to look at and act on. You know what? One of the things on a side note, I have a friend who owns a restaurant or a couple restaurants here in Cincinnati, complaining last week, Shaw, on what was it, Saturday, last day of the year they were open, about how you had to go into their payroll system and change everybody's minimum wage, everybody who's making minimum wage, jack it up. So 13 different states, and that's where I'm going with it. 13 or 14 different states raised their minimum wage as of January 1st. Is that going to get talked about at all? Because that's part of that, believe it or not, that's part of inflation wage, right? I don't know how many
Yeah.
people are affected by this, but it's got to be something that's going to, just like my friend's business owner, it's going to give them another little push, another little, flame of, inflation here, keeping
No
things
one
hot.
has been talking about it, CJ, but they're going to start talking about it now that this has been implemented, and we're going to start to see that how it works through. Those increases in wages are going to get passed along in an inflationary environment. That's what happens. The greatest impact on inflation right now is in the service sector. It's not in goods, it's in services. And so that, here we go, the triggering of higher wages is going to start that spiral. And it's, again, problematic. There are lots of places I go, there's still help wanted signs everywhere.
Right.
So if whether they're restaurants or retail shops or whatever they are, if they need to employ people, they're going to have to pay up. And that's going to continue to heat up inflation in the service sector. And I don't think that whatever we get from the Fed, we're going to see an abatement, a reasonable enough abatement this year in that because of services inflation. And that means probably higher rates for longer.
All right. So, what are the three or four things that are standing right now in the way of the Fed that they're going to have to deal with over 2023?
I think the only thing that they're going to have to deal with in terms of maybe pausing, well, not necessarily pausing, but certainly pivoting, is a monumental recession, a hard landing that they don't see happening. If that happens, they're going to have to pivot, and fairly quickly, because the fall off could be dramatic and could do some long-term damage to the economy. So that's number one, is do they make a mistake? Do they overshoot? Do we fall into a recession and it happens quickly and it ends up being fairly deep? The other thing is a market crash. We know we'll see a pivot on interest rates if the market crashes. I'm talking about the stock market. I think there's a possibility with investors looking like they're going on strike. And one of the reasons we've seen the VIX pretty low relative to the volatility is there's just not a lot of put buying, because a lot of the people that we're buying puts as hedges aren't in the market now. They're out of the
Right.
market. And the fear that a lot of investors have is that they miss the next upside spike. And so they're buying longer term calls, 30 days out, 60 days out. And so we're seeing the VIX come down in terms of the general trend because that's what people are doing. They don't want to be in the market, but they don't want to miss the next jump if we're going to get one. And that's telling us to the mentality of investors right now, skittish at best. And the Fed is aware of that. If we see a collapse in the market. And to me, a collapse in the market is below 3,000 on the S&P, and I have a 2,800 call on S&P. If we get down there, the Fed's going to pivot.
Right. Hey, you know what? On a side note, that feeling that you just said, where nobody wants to miss the next rally, everybody's trying to keep their finger, on the scale here, or whatever, however you want to put it. That's part of the problem here, right? I mean, if we don't have that moment, capitulation. We all want to say it. We all want to have that moment. Nobody wants it, but you need to get to it. And we've continued to absolutely avoid that by people coming in with that exact sentiment. I don't
Yeah,
want to miss the upside.
That's a great point, CJ. We haven't had a capitulation for that exact reason. People are trying to bottom fish here and there, but they're doing it mostly in options. So we see a lot of options activity when the market goes down, and a lot of call buying when the market goes down. Because
Mhm.
yeah, you don't want to miss that next pop. You don't want to miss the Fed pivot. And okay, because if that happens, the market's going to scream higher for how long? Who knows? But that's the problem. No capitulation,
Yeah.
no absolute fear breaking down. Everyone's out of the market when okay, that's probably the time to load up the truck.
Yep, back it up and just go bottom fishing. By the way, I thought you were saying bomb fishing earlier, like you were throwing dynamite out into the Hudson there and then pulling up the dead fish. So my
Well,
bad.
isn't that the easy way to fish? It takes a lot less
Is that
time.
how you do it? Yeah, that's how I do it.